Good morning, students. In this session, we are going to learn how to develop college admission details application in Django. That is how to get how many number of students that are registered for different courses in a college using a Django application. So for this, we are going to write the models.py file, views.py, admin.py, urs.py, HTML, CSS, and as well as settings.py. So what contains the models.py file? So it contains the class models. That is, here I am going to write a model with a name called student or student details. That is, the database table is created with the name of the class in the model. Now, after writing the models.py file, I am going to register my model in admin.py file. And after that, I am going to write the views.py file, which I am going to render the values into an HTML page. Since I am going to use the HTML page here, I am going to use the concept called templates. So for this, I am going to create a folder with the name called templates in the application. In that, I am going to write the HTML file. For the corresponding HTML file, I am going to add the CSS. So for this, I am going to create a folder with the name called static in the application. And in the static, I am going to create a folder with the name called CSS. So in CSS, I am going to write the corresponding CSS file. And finally, I am going to add the configuration in settings.py file. Now, I quickly open my Visual Studio Code. So in my Visual Studio Code, firstly in settings.py file, I am going to write the configuration settings to connect with MySQL database. So here my database name is college data. And I am going to add the remaining configuration settings, that is username, password, host, port and options, etc. so that the MySQL will work as a traditional database. And now, what models.py file contains? So in models.py file, I am going to create a model with a name called student details. So in this, I am going to create 6 fields. Let me say my 6 fields are SNO, SName, group, address, phone, and as well as previous degree also. And finally, I am going to write the string constructor, which is used to retrieve the data from the backend. So for this, I am going to use the string constructor. After writing the models, I am going to import my models. That is, I am going to register my models into admin.py file. So for this, I am going to write a command, that is from my application.models import my model name. And in admin.py file, I am going to write a class name with a name called employee admin. And in this, I am going to create a list with the values, that is with the field values of the model. That is name, group, number, address, phone number, and previous degree. And finally, I am going to register my model. So here my model name is student details and along with the class name employee admin. Now, in views.py file, I am going to register my model and along with I am going to write a method with a name called stu data, which consists of the list of the values that are going to be retrieved from the database. So these dictionary values are forwarded to an HTML page for displaying context. So here I am going to use the render method. And in urs.py file, I am going to write my view name, that is views.stu data, and name is equal to stu data. And what are the remaining files? And here I am going to open that employee.html file. So for this, I am going to create a folder with the name called templates in my application, and I am going to write the necessary code. So in employee.html, I am going to use load static, which is a template tag, and I am going to refer the style sheet. So as I said earlier, for the referring of style sheet, I am going to create a folder with the name called static, which consists of CSS folder, and in the demo.css. So in demo.css, I am going to write the corresponding style sheet or style for my application. So in employee.html, I am going to refer this one. So for referring, I am going to use the href, that is demo.css, which was in the CSS folder. And in the body of the context, I am going to write certain data and I am going to create a table. So for this, retrieving the values in the database, I am going to use the if and else loop. That is, if the data is present in the database, the values are displayed. Otherwise, no data is displayed or no records are found, like that, message is going to be displayed. So for this, I am going to start my if loop and I am going to use the string list, that is which I have taken dictionary. Now in from the dictionary I am going to retrieve the values. So for this I am going to write the headings, that is SNO, SName, group, address, etc. And I am going to retrieve the values in the student list with the help of a for each loop. That is, for student in STU list I am going to retrieve SNO, SName, group, address, phone number, and remaining details. So this is integrating variables concept in Django. Using this integrating variables, I am going to retrieve the values. And finally, I am going to end the for loop. If the data is not present, no records are found, message is going to be displayed. And finally, I am going to end the if loop also. Now, I quickly open my command prompt. So, here my command prompt. I am going to navigate to my folder. So, Now I am going to run the project. So python space manage.py space migrate. Yeah, here I am going to create the database. So let me first create the database with the name called college data. College data. So let me create the database first. Now I am going to rerun the code. Yes, here you can clearly see that all the migrations are applied for the corresponding data. Now I am going to make the migration, that is python space manage.py space make migrations. Yes, the model was created successfully with student details and the remaining models are deleted, that is previous models are deleted. Now I am going to run the code python space manage.py space run server and I am going to run the code. If the data is present in the database, the data is going to be retrieved. Otherwise, no records are displayed like that. So here I am going to apply one of the migrations. So let me migrate once again. Yes, now I am going to run the code again. Now I am going to open this. And here you can clearly see that KBN college admission details and no records are found since there is no data in the database. So for this, I am going to open my database and I am going to add the data. So let me import my data or let me add the SQL data. So let me say, let me run the SQL query also. So for this, I am going to use query or as well as I am going to use the concept of, let me say we can enter the data manually. So let me import or let me go to first let me go to our tables, that is my app, that is student details. So in this we are going to insert the data. So in the insert data option I am going to insert the value. So let me say my record, first record value is 100, name is let me say Rajesh and the group is data let me say MCA and address is Vijayawada and phone number let me and previous degree let me values, let me enter the values. Yes, previous degree let me say BSc MPCS and I am going to add this data. Yes, the value is added. Now I am going to insert the another values also. Let me say my number is 101, my name is let me say A3 and I am going to add Hyderabad. Let me group, sorry, group here I am going to use MBA. Let me add Hyderabad and let me add my phone number 7896 and previous degree BCom General and I am going to add this. Now I am going to add another value also. Let me insert the values. So the third value is 102. Let me add the data. Now I am going to add this my group as a MSc chemistry. Now I am going to add the address as Guntur and I am going to add some phone number and I am going to previous degree as BSc MCCS and I am going to select go. Now the data is inserted. Now here you can clearly see that the three values are inserted into the table and here now we are going to retrieve it. So for this retrieving, I am going to refresh here. So in my database, that is in my application, I am going to select the refresh option. Here you can clearly see that student number, name, group, address, and next phone number and previous degree, all the values are retrieved in our database, that is in our application. So in this way, we are going to retrieve the backend database details into our application in Django. Thank you.